All right, welcome everyone to today's episode of the Ari Lewis Show here on Root Sheva, Israel National Radio, and the show is syndicated as Messiah Hour on YouTube. Go to YouTube and type in Messiah Hour with Ari Lewis and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is free to do so, and you can also find me on JApp. JApp is a Jewish application which features lectures from big rabbis as well as from historians, not to mention episodes of this program. JApp can be downloaded from iTunes and Google Play stores or from their website, www.j-app.me. And, of course, you can email me, messiahhour@gmail.com. With Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's address to Congress, with Iran loading up on whatever type of weapons they have, a lot of people expect some type of World War III or end world, and Judaism does talk about these type of things of Gog HaMagog. So the question is, can we avoid Gog HaMagog? On the line right now to tell us if we can is Rabbi David Katz, co-author of the book, The World of the Ger. Rabbi Katz, how you doing out there?
Hey, Ari, thanks for having me back, as always. Good to be here.
Indeed. So let's talk about first the prophecy of Zechariah, talking about the end of the world, if you will, and the end of times.
So one of the main sources of the end of days kind of image, or the grotesque pictures we have in our minds of the end of days, the apocalypse, is from the book of Zechariah. And Zechariah is the home, and for Hebrew speakers, it sounds a little funny, Zechariah, right? It speaks about the skin melting away from people, eyes melting in the eye sockets, and it really, and I'd say anyone alive from post 1950 onwards would realize that was speaking about a nuclear kind of bomb. Before nukes came out, I don't know what they would have thought. Back in, let's say, 1850, maybe they thought it was the plague. I don't know. But certainly since we saw World War II, and what happened was World War II, and you read Zechariah with, again, the imagery of melting and just kind of a nuclear fallout, I think that's where Judaism at least has gone in its thinking, is that the end of days is going to be a nuclear holocaust, at least these last 50, 60 years. So I think the nation's always thought along these lines, kind of your really, zombie apocalypse type images. And in Jewish circles, especially since the state of Israel, I think it became uniform from a literal taking of the prophecies that we can expect the worst with a Gog HaMagog scenario.
Okay, so in that situation, that sounds like this is going to happen. Let's talk about first apocalyptic literature, which supports this idea.
So that's when you get into, not just Zechariah. There's a lot of works that are not well known. One work is called the Sefer Zerubbabel, and this is about the Messiah and his battles with Armilus, which is loosely translated as the Antichrist. Right? Judaism has one of those too. But many people don't know about the Jewish times of the end and the literature and the things. And we hear about the Christian Antichrist, but Judaism has Armilus. And you hear about the apocalypse, we have Gog HaMagog. Every religion, I think, has an Elijah scenario, a Messiah scenario. So all the characters are pretty much uniform in all the eschatology. But in Jewish eschatology in particular, the kind of bloody nuclear holocaust seems to exist. And all the corresponding works, we mentioned Zechariah, a few other works as well in the Tanakh, speak about, the book of Ezekiel about Gog and Magog coming onto the land of Israel, in the north of Israel, where Gog and his armies will be buried. So Judaism is not without its wealth of literature concerning the apocalyptic end and how it appears to be a very bloody, gory zombie apocalypse straight from the Jewish sources.
All right, good stuff. Obviously, somewhat scary. We'll talk more in the show about if there is a way we can get out of it. Again, this is the Ari Lewis Show here on the Root Sheva, Israel National Radio, and the show is syndicated as Messiah Hour on YouTube. Our guest this afternoon is Rabbi David Katz. Rabbi Katz, let's talk about the end, if you will, of Gog HaMagog and the religious culture that is currently what we are experiencing.
So, as Jews, we tend to forget that we're a religion sometimes because we're also a people. And the Judaism is not just at least an apocalyptic end or even an end. Right? Very few Jews are even involved with thinking of in terms of the end. Judaism for most people is bagels and lox, Sunday school, Hebrew school, Jewish day school, socializing with your Jewish friends, living in Israel, Zionism. It's a culture of living. And again, we tend to forget that there are other aspects of Judaism, namely eschatology, right? A time of the end, a time of the Messiah, Gan Eden, returning the world to its restoration, kind of ideological causes, which are not for everybody in terms of interest. But when you look at your neighbors, let's say the Christian world, the Islamic world, for them, the apocalypse is very much a thing. In case you weren't aware, there's a group called ISIS going around chopping heads off because they're trying to bring their apocalyptic end. And when you get into Christianity, you have the idea, is Jesus coming back? Did Jesus ever leave? All these different things about, their apocalyptic end. The Jews will come to respect Jesus, and all these thoughts and beliefs of what's going to happen, the New Jerusalem and the rapture, all these different forms of eschatology. And I think in Christianity and in Islam, it pretty much was a bloody end. Right? If you don't believe in Allah, the Mahdi, Jesus, Isa, all these things, you're going to go to hell. You're probably going to die a gory death. The local religion wins. They have it great. Maybe 70 virgins, or great access to heaven. All these things, and so that's what we're contending with. So for a Jew to have, let's say, a true perspective, which, as you mentioned, we're going to get to, at least, as King David is going to bring his view in the Psalm literature, we seem to be competing for a gory end. Which culture is going to get it the most? And that seems to be the fight that's going on, especially now as religion comes to its close. As in the times that we're living in, seems to suggest that every religion is trying to push their end time agenda on society.
Yeah, it's all over the place. One of the reasons I started the show, because I looked around and saw really there wasn't a Jewish show that talked about Jewish sources of the end of times, but it is very prevalent in the Christian world. You could drive around the United States, listen to Christian stations. They're talking about the end of the world. The Muslims are talking about their at the end of the world. And I'm going to throw a curveball to you, Rabbi. Why is it those two cultures are doing that and we're doing the bagels and lox thing? Except for, the two of us and a couple other people, but not to sound arrogant, but most of our people are on the bagels and lox, and we're talking about the end. Why is that?
I mean, I could give you a correct answer, but I'll throw you a curveball back.
Okay.
And say it's because we're eating bagels and lox. I mean, if we would really understand Mashiach the right way, those cultures would have nothing to say. And particularly since we're going to lack there the most. Again, I think there's other answers better than this, but on one angle, okay, this is an important angle. The more that we neglect these studies, they will take them up in particular. Now, there's other reasons because, in Christianity, the dropout of the church and into the different other, evangelical areas became very much apocalyptic. The rapture, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Catholicism doesn't hold of rapture. I think that's a main disagreement between the church and the later movements. So for them, it was a form of breaking away, being unique, being interesting, giving them something to live for. The game continues because Judaism ended a long time ago in the eyes of many. Catholicism pretty much ended a long time ago. Aside from the fact that their continuation is in the Pope in the Vatican. So for the evangelical movement, there has to be something to live for. So the rapture and Jesus coming back offers, stay tuned. For Islam, I don't really know why they're going so gung ho now. I don't know if they always did, but for whatever it's worth, they really want those 70 virgins now. Which I think that the state of Israel is helping that along. I've done a little bit of research on the Islamic side, and I know that they view Zionism and the Zionist state, what they call the Dajjal, which is the head demon, right? So their messianic end is to fight those forces. So with Judaism surging strong with an end time Zionist concept, it just triggers into their field. So I guess that was kind of divine providence. But again, the fact that we're so negligent to take our eschatology seriously, I think that's really what Islam is about. Is that when we don't take that seriously and we get lackadaisical in our approach in the land, they get super duper frum and fanatical about things, and it just feeds into their eschatology.
Yeah, the irony. We're not taking ours seriously, so the other religions will do it for us, and that's why we have the problems that we have. Now, what is interesting is that you have the Christian Western world talk about the end of the world, and you have Islam talk about the end of the world. But another aspect of Western culture that talks about the end of the world that's not exactly Christian is Hollywood. A lot of movies have been made, if you go 15 years ago, let's talk Independence Day, the world's going to end from aliens. Then you had a movie called 2012 that talked about the world ending, and a bunch of movies in between. So is Hollywood somehow, because they have Jewish writers, I don't know what exactly, are they seeping this idea of the end of the world to us so we'll be a little more prepared?
I think Messiah sells. They say sex sells in advertising. I think Messiah sells Hollywood. I mean, look, was Luke Skywalker anything other than a Messiah? Or Neo in The Matrix, Harry Potter in Harry Potter. I mean, I think we're kind of fascinated with the Messiah concept in film, but they shroud it in kind of a tameh, non-kosher veil, and it sells. And, obviously the non-Jews, they eat it up. Again, the Matrix ideas and Star Wars were bigger than life. And we all know Jews in Hollywood are a thing. And, I mean, look, Star Trek was created by Jews. So I think that, the Bagel and Lox Jew in his subconscious it really projects maybe the strongest Messiahism ever. I mean, Star Trek in its finest is some of the most fascinating concepts out there. I mean, nobody is originally thinking along those lines like in Star Trek series that were, in top Hollywood films that have been. It's Jewish thought. So this is just a theory. I haven't really thought into this until about 10 seconds ago, but it would seem that Jewish Hollywood, at least in a dormant kind of capacity, really projects Jewish eschatology in a very, very thick veil. People probably don't realize it comes from Jews, but I would venture to say that our creative thought in those areas have been taken from Torah and have been put into kind of a form of entertainment.
That is certainly an interesting idea, that they want to make that entertainment, but it does work. Those movies, Matrix, those three movies were some of the highest grossing movies of all time, Independence Day, 2012, etc. Again, this is the Ari Lewis Show here on Arutz Sheva, Israel National Radio, and the show is syndicated as the Messiah Hour on YouTube. You can go to YouTube and type in Messiah Hour with Ari Lewis and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is free to do so, and tell your friends and family to do the same thing, because the more subscribers I get, the higher my shows will be in YouTube searches, and the more ratings the show will get. So please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Again, emails messiahhour@gmail.com. And we're continuing the conversation with Rabbi David Katz of solmazal.com. Rabbi Katz, talk about Hollywood. Let's talk about fanaticism. The fanatics. Is it really so fanatical to talk about the end of the world and to believe in it when it's in our literature all over the place?
We have actually Hollywood has taken second seat, I think, to ISIS, haven't they? I mean,
currently, yeah.
I mean, did you see the film with the guy being burned in the cage?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually watch it, but it did came out, and everyone wanted to watch it, millions of people, and they were attracted to it for whatever reason.
And so I saw an article on Facebook, and they said it was CGI. Is it called CGI? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, there's an opinion that it was faked, basically.
Right. And so I saw it. I mean, it was somebody forwarded it to me. I think it was CGI. This is my opinion from looking at it. But what's interesting is that what ISIS has done is they're using like a Hollywood lens to show or portray their cause. I mean, there's graphics, effects, all through the video broadcast of everything they're doing, and it's like a kind of bizarro Hollywood. You know, it's strange. So not only are they, bringing the end of days in your face, but they're broadcasting it like Hollywood. I mean, they're really bringing all things together to projecting mankind that's tuning into these guys. Boker Tov, ladies and gentlemen, this is end of days. I think a lot of it is fabricated and propaganda, but that's not the point. The point is they are really making kind of a merger with where we are in time, who they are, Hollywood, eschatology, bringing in, beheading Christians. If they were just beheading people, that wouldn't be the same as beheading Christians, right? So they're just itching for the, end of days mentality. They're bringing Allah to the forefront, land of Israel. I mean, it doesn't take much, if anything, to turn on the TV or the internet, and you should be looking at the end of days square on. I mean, when you saw Bibi go into Congress and talk about where he holds, what's going on between Obama and Iran, all the prophetic literature, whether it's gory or not gory, just literature and Judaism speaks about Yaakov, Israel, Persia, Iran, Esav, the West, Ishmael, the Arabs. All the characters that we need are here and present and counted for. I remember when I was in yeshiva in 2006 and the Hezbollah war broke out in the north. And I was still in Sfat until it got crazy after that initial Shabbos. I remember a guy who gave a Daf Yomi class. We asked him, we said, is this it? Is this, what we think it is? We thought it was the end. He said, I don't know if it's the end or not. This is like a straight Litvak. This guy doesn't get all, fanatical. He said, I don't know if it is or not. But what I do know is, right now, you don't have to fudge any sources. Everyone that's supposed to be here is here. And whether it's now or a year or a couple of years later, it's only going to get stronger from this point on. Because, again, at this point, and I'll say this with all that's going on now, we don't have to force or fudge or insert any foreign character into the script. Jews are here. Iran, Persia's here. The exile of Ishmael's here. The exile of Edom is here. Everything is at the forefront, highly visualized, and it's just a matter of time before it all works out to where the point of the show is today. Is it going to be the zombie apocalypse, or in fact, is there another way?
And again, we'll get into another way more in the second half of the show. Let's end the first half of the program talking about today's world. You were touching upon that. Let's say this way, how is today's world different, let's say, the times of the Holocaust? Because a lot of people think that we are at the end. And I counter, ironically, I host the Messiah Hour show, but I like to argue I'm a Jew. I could say maybe we're not at the end, because if you look at the times of World War II, clearly that looked like that was the end. How is this different than World War II? So what is your answer to that?
I think there's a very simple answer, and that's that everybody's looking for a time. Right? What is the date that Mashiach comes? What is the date that it all ends? What is the date where this and that? The answer is there never is or was or will be a date. What there is the kufot, time periods. So for example, we had the Zohar predict that from, I think it was 1750 until 1850 would be 100 years of shefa, of divine bounty from above and below, which it's been identified has happened as the Industrial Revolution. Also, Judaism flourished more in that time than any other time. With the Ramchal, Vilna Gaon, Chassidus. Then you had the fruits of the Industrial Revolution, which basically created the scenarios of World Wars I and II. Then you have the Chavetz Chaim, who said 70 years is Gog HaMagog. Now that takes you right from World War II to right about where we are now. And then you can say that World War II achieved the gory end part that we all are afraid of, and that now the fulfillment will be something else. So there's so many pieces of this cholent. Nobody knows how to cook it. But what we can say is that from 6 a.m. on the paradigm clock, the year 1740, things have basically been the Messianic time period. If you look at things with a big eye, kind of like a long lens of how to view events, you can see that from around 1700 until now has been a constant Messianic time. And I think that's what's going to continue. Just more of along those lines.
All right, again, this is the Ari Lewis Show here on Israel National Radio, Arut Sheva. And the show is syndicated as the Messiah Hour on YouTube. You can go to YouTube and type in Messiah Hour with Ari Lewis and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is free to do so. And if you'd like to make a financial contribution to the program, you can do so through my PayPal account, IsraelSportsRadio@yahoo.com. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or any topics you'd like me to discuss in the future, or anyone you'd like me to interview as well, send me an email to messiahhour@gmail.com. Our guest this afternoon is Rabbi David Katz. You can find him on solmazal.com, gergear.com, and he is the co-author of the new hit book, The World of the Ger, which can be purchased on those websites as well as Amazon. We'll take a quick break and have more on the other side. This is the Ari Lewis Show here on IsraelNationalRadio.com.